My name is Robert Christopher Wayne Weathers. I live at 3102 Central Hill Road, Acre, Mississippi, 38841. I am under attack by what appears to be Scientology. So this is what I have observed. It appears that there is more space in the universe than humans can see. There are 11 dimensions. These dimensions reside within the particle itself. So inside of the particles in which we consist of lie 11 dimensions. You can think of our third dimensional world as a shell. There is something inside of the matter in which we consist of. There is another place. So we have biology in this extra place, 11 dimensional biology. When we die, we utilize this biology to have an afterlife. From what I have observed, the human genome produces an 11 dimensional humanoid with a head covering. It usually has horns. We have short arms and big hands. We have extra dimensional organs and appendages like a soul tube. And we have tubes that come out of our legs to help us expel waste. We are designed to fly through outer space. So we are Anunnaki. This is what I have observed. When our biology comes out of our third, expands into the inverse. First, it creates another biology. And then as it transitions the boundaries into the next three dimensions, it creates a layer on top of that. And then it does the same with the next three dimensions and so on and so forth. So you wind up with a biology that consists of layers, a biology inside of a biology inside of a biology. Scientologists remove this biology from themselves, these extra dimensions, some of it or most of it. And they utilize technology and techniques to turn this extra dimensional biology into an organism in which they can drive around the upper dimensions. So they like to remove the layers from themselves. And they wind up with three or four biologies in outer space in which they can modify and turn into an extra dimensional vehicle. So there's an entanglement property between our third dimension and our inner dimensions. If you remove biology from our inner dimensions, no matter how far you take it away from us, we are still in this biology. So it appears to, from our perspective, that as the biology leaves us, space time in between us and the biology shrinks. This is because you can't remove energy from within our particles. You can't take energy out of our particles. If you do this, the particle will be destroyed. So the universe has to conform to this process or this act in an attempt to keep energy inside of the particle. So there's an entanglement property. So these Scientologists remove their biology, their extra dimensions, and they like to remove the layers. So they wind up with three or four biologies in outer space in which they are entangled. These biologies can't function in this manner, in this state. They can't function being cut to pieces. They lose their homeostasis and their ability to produce biochemical electricity and their ability to function properly. So they have to use organs and tissues from other humans and other organisms in an attempt to make themselves whole and function properly. So they like to use organs and tissues from other humans, from reptiles, lizards, from insects, and worms. So they modify their biology using this stolen tissue, organs and tissues. They make lizard people, they make insect people or insectoids, they make worm people, and then there's the alien form. So there are a few types of alien form. There are blue bloods, which is a more whole biology. They're what I call the greens, just a humanoid. Uh, it looks like what we see on TV. And then there's the grays, which looks like a human skin. It's part of our inside. So then these biologies in which they create, they can no longer produce homeostasis or produce biochemical electricity. So they have to utilize an artificial means of energy to give themselves energy to function properly. Yes, these are humans driving the aliens. Aliens are remote controlled organisms. They belong to someone on Earth. So Scientologists on Earth are driving their upper dimensions around in outer space and on Earth. Now, here's something that you need to keep in mind. If you have a healthy biology and you die, you actually pull into yourself. They call it raising or turning around. You take everything that you consist of and pull it deeply into yourself as possible. You face the other way. You face inside. You go into the singularity and you face that way. You are no longer facing the way humans do to the third dimension. And you take everything with you. And then you leave yourself. And you only leave behind a shell, the very outermost of our biology. Scientologists lose this. That's why they lose the ability to produce homeostasis and biochemical electricity. They have to leave biology behind to survive. You can't survive missing all of this biology. And then they have to use transplants and life saving techniques to make themselves function properly. So this technology and these techniques that Scientologists use, first they like to uh, remove some of their biology or parts of their biology, like brain tissue. They like to remove brain stem, their thalamus, and their eyes. And they have a compound. They have compounds on Earth in which they house this biology. So they have little pods or little boxes. They store their biology in, and then they install it into a wall or a storage system, which is also a computer. And they use electrodes and sensors and devices to interface themselves to a computer system. From there, they can interact with each other in a digital landscape. They can communicate with each other, even have sexual relations with each other. And this allows for a command, or this also creates a command center in which they can also drive their upper dimensions and surge. So that's part of their technology. They also use technology and devices on what's left. So on their in their third dimension, they interface these devices with their brain and central nervous system. And these devices do several things. First, some of these devices are recording devices. They like to record their vision and their sensory perception input. So they like to record their vision, their hearing, their taste, their smell, their touch. It basically turns uh, your experience of the world into a movie. It records it. They call this a preservation device. And these devices also act as a phone service, so it allows you to hear each other, and then it allows you to see each other. and then they have a screen. So this screen interfaces with your the visual cortex of your brain and your thalamus. In this records the visual processes of your brain. So instead of using your neurons, you are now using a screen. And this technology also artificially stimulates neural tissue. So they can isolate and stimulate individual neurons, neural connections, and thought patterns. They can make you experience a memory, or they can make you experience a thought pattern, and they can also make you have a dream. It's kind of sort of a dream. So Yumas or Preservision, they have a little skit they call "Riding the Purple Dinosaur," for instance, where you're a kid and you're riding on a dinosaur, dancing around in a circle, then wink. It gives you an extreme dopamine boost, and then you get an ego kick out of it. Ego boost. And this technology also elevates neurochemistry. So it stimulates neurons. They run energy through their neurons, and this stimulates neurochemical production. So it elevates neurochemicals like dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin. This has a narcotic-like effect upon the user. This they can also stimulate sexual organs and have a sexual encounter with each other. And lastly, this technology allows them to create surrogates. So it gives them the ability to drive organisms other than themselves. They can drive other humans, animals like cats and dogs, drive insects, and even worms. And they can even drive microbial life and viruses. So now these Scientologists or these people on Earth, they have an extra dimensional vehicle. They can go anywhere in the world they want to, and no one can see them. They can invade our privacy. They can manipulate or modify our environments. They can hurt people, make us sick, and they can steal biology from people for Scientology purposes, either for transplant purposes or for uh, try to control these people or for surrogate making purposes. And the Scientology community has become extremely criminal. It is a criminal enterprise. It is basically a medical field built around body modification. So these Scientologists, they need other people's organs, other people and other organisms. They need body parts from these life forms in order to uh, modify their own biology or to create surrogates. And then companies like social media and marketing companies, and several businesses and the government, they are stealing people's brain tissue to install into their computer system to invade people's privacy. They like to steal eye nerves to invade our privacy, to read our thoughts, and to try to manipulate our behavior or to try to sell us things. So it goes, this is part of the algorithms in which we are seeing on the internet today. They're using this stolen biology, especially brain tissue, to create algorithms based on things that you are interested in buying or things that you are already buying or things that you might need. And they are doing this in mass. So if you have a social media account, if you access the internet in any way, or if you even have a television or a phone, a cell phone, you are in danger of losing biology. So these Scientologists do things like force people to assimilate. So if you have any influence, authority, or power, or an employment position in which they want to exploit, they force you to assimilate in an attempt to control you, control your behavior. They do things like kidnap people. So they kidnap people for several reasons. Maybe you are, uh, maybe Scientology has a problem with you, or even for sexual purposes, or maybe they covet your biology. They might kidnap you. Yes, they do this for sexual purposes too. They also traffic humans for organ theft and for sexual purposes and for uh, criminal activity. So they like to invade our homes, invade our privacy, invade our businesses, and they even use their upper dimensions as lookouts so they can see us coming and going from our homes and businesses and then break and enter with their third dimensions to steal information or steal property or manipulate this environment in some way. Rape and torture is rampant among the Scientology community, and so is murder and acts of terrorism. They like to use bad organisms as weapons. They like to use parasites. They have several species of parasitic worms, some of which are genetically engineered, and they poison people with these worms and parasites to utilize as a weapon. And they also use microbial life and viruses as weapons also. So these people like to harass individuals, they gaslight them, they like to sabotage their lives. They like to cause accidents within these people or destroy their health, make people very sick. They like to do this to family members, co-workers, and neighbors. I am extremely sick, and I keep getting victim shamed. They're saying it's somehow my fault. So this started on social media over 13 years ago. I was a political activist. There was a large group of people that participated in politics. We discussed elections, elected officials, lawmaking and policy, environmental issues, and we participated in politics. So we tried to persuade elections and lawmaking and policy. And I'm also an author, creative. So I write literature a lot. I wrote a lot and inspired a lot of people on social media. I helped a lot of people come up with their own ideas and write their own literature. Then the Scientology community forced me to assimilate. So I started experiencing strange communication. Like it became apparent that uh, social media sites or social media pages and several internet sites were invading my privacy, that they could see into my environment. They started trying to control me, tell me what to do, how to do my job, when I could take breaks, when I could use the restroom. And I told them to get away from me. Did not accept their advances. To stop. I told them to stop. And then a lot more people came, and they were hostile and mean and harassed me, and they threatened my life and my liberty. And they wouldn't stop. They kept on and kept on and kept on. Eventually, I started yelling at these people, get away from me, stop. Well, the communication stopped for the most part. But it became apparent that the public was invading my privacy, that everyone could see into my home, into my place of employment, which turned into intellectual property. So they started stealing my ideas and the things that I was working on and my things that I was studying. And they utilized this information for their own works, for their own media uh, information or media output, and their magazine articles and uh, even the internet industry or the entertainment industry. Then I became violently ill. So I could feel things stuck inside of me, deep inside of my ear, my neck, and my head, my face, and my whole face swelled up. So I started going to the hospital, get scans done to try to get it out, but I couldn't see anything. Well, as time went on, people like radio DJs, people on social media, NPR, MPB, the government, and several other uh, people harassed me on a daily basis. So as the years went on, communication grew worse and worse, and I became sicker and sicker. And then the intellectual property theft became greater and greater. So I wrote intellectual content like Crazy Bird Comics. I wrote the Environment Creation Agency or Environmental Control Agency. I wrote Divine Currency or Buffalo Dollars. I wrote Alien Bob, Bug Bob, and several others. Then one day I started to see things and hear things. So I started to see these people, both in my mind and then I seen organisms in my environment. Is I've seen the aliens in the hive mind, and there's a phone service we have, which all you got to do is think about somebody or say their name, and it opens up a FaceTime, so to speak, with these individuals that are practicing Scientology. Then they started stealing my extra dimensional biology. This is when I learned about my extra dimensions. So they got to witness me write literature and create, participate in politics, and they became attracted to my psychology. So these people that were installing the phone services, they started selling seats to my mind space or to my mind space to other Scientologists. So then the other Scientologists invade my mind for a fee. And not just some phone service where you can make a phone call. They actually got to watch my thought processes constantly and the visual processes. So then this turned into biological theft. They wanted to utilize my psychology and experience or and my ability to create literature for themselves. So they literally removed extra dimensional brain tissue, tried to utilize it as a transplant. They literally removed the inverse part of my brain and stuck it in their own heads. That's what Scientologists do. They use other people's biology, organs, and tissues to try to make themselves whole and function properly. Then some of my biology they use for surrogate purposes. And they kept trying to study me and trying to understand how I function so well. That it must have something to do with my genetics because I'm part Native American. And they wanted to experience my biology for themselves. So they utilized it for transplant purposes and for surrogate making purposes. And then some of it they're using for a torture device. So we are still in this biology, even if it's removed from you. They're doing horrible things to it. They like to stick foreign objects inside of me and my biology and cause me pain and suffering and just leave them there. And parasites. They like to contaminate my food and water supply with contaminants and well, worms, parasites. And they do things like lock my biology out of entropy or make it fall through space time by extra dimensions. I am severely ill, extremely sick. And they harass me and gaslight me constantly and victim shame me. They're saying somehow this is my fault. They've done this to me, my family, my coworkers, my neighbors, and the rest of my community. So this entanglement property between our third dimension and our inverse, it also extends to the other particles in which we, the inanimate particles. So things like our homes and the land our homes sit on, they also have inverse. And these Scientologists can do things like remove the inverts from our homes and the land that we own and take these to a remote location. Then they can interact with our third dimension using uh, this relocation, using this ability. And these Scientologists get big. So if you remove your extra dimensions from yourself while you're still alive and you don't take the whole thing, it expands at a greater rate than we do on Earth. So you actually lose your anchor to space time. And they become big compared to us. It's big enough to cleave your home. Some of them do. Is they like to contaminate our food and water supply. Now, I haven't been gaslighted as much as I have victim shamed and harassed. So they give me death threats constantly. And then they victim shame me. They say it's my fault. So our dead people and our extra dimensions, they come with special abilities. We have very powerful eyesight. So we can see in all dimensions down to the molecular level. We can fly through outer space or fly around. With a healthy biology and a healthy environment, they can actually move particles around with their eyes, their mind. Magic. And they can interact with our biologies in a very complex way. So they can observe and modify genetic material like DNA strands. And they can help our biologies create special features or modify them in this manner. In ancient times, these abilities were supposed to be used to help life on this planet grow and develop. They help they help turn the human genome into an Anunnaki. They use this ability to create lizard people out of our dead people in alien forms. So in the last 60 years, these abilities have been abused. They are utilized to practice Scientology. So they are utilized to see the inner workings of a biology and to modify it and to cut it to pieces and to help people access the upper dimensions. They are utilized to see our brain and central nervous system functioning, and they can isolate neurons and thought patterns and memories and stimulate these this area of our brain and apply technology using these abilities. But they also hurt people. And they're conditioning, so they're conditioning to mutilate biologies on top of their criminal activity. And now they are elevating neurochemicals like dopamine and norepinephrine. We are experiencing some extremely negative psychology and behavior within the Scientology community. They are psychotic and delusional. They are jealous and petty, irritable. They have addictive tendencies. They get addicted to people and to things. They are religious zealots. We're seeing a cult like behavior. They're greedy, petty. So a lot of these people don't want other people to have their own biology. They don't want them to function properly. It's pettiness and jealousy. And they use their abilities to hurt these people or to take body parts from them. So they literally see body parts as a commodity, as an object that has value to them, other people's biology or their own. It is an object in which they can use for transplants or surrogate purposes or for install into their uh, storage system, their computer system, try to control people or invade their privacy. Yeah, so they like to take body parts away from people, especially the ordained, the people in their hive mind, and they do this to people on Earth too. And these Scientologists, if they see like a competitor, a business competitor, or a, a someone at political odds to themselves, or uh, a political competition, and even the police do it to people in the military. They like to sabotage people, hurt people, and make them sick. It's part of their pettiness and jealousy. And now they have a God complex. They think they are above the law, and they think that they can hurt anybody they want to and get away with it. They think they can put their hands on anybody they want to and get away with it. No, you are not. You're not participating in reality. Our society doesn't work this way. No, it don't. It's still against the law. Your criminal behavior towards me is against the law no matter what. See, they're victim shaming me. They have committed such atrocious crimes against me. They're trying to come up with some narrative that which somehow excuses their bad behavior. They're trying to say, well, I've done something wrong or that I'm a bad person or something. Somehow justifies their criminal behavior towards me. This, which is also third dimension. Then they plan on killing me for a long time, committing identity fraud or identity theft. For a long time, they wanted to make me a surrogate. And then they want to come in and steal my belongings, like my machinist tools and my staff and my books, all the books that I wrote, my computer and my cell phone, so they can utilize my social media and my websites. Yes, they're crackheads. Not only does their technology stimulate their brain tissue and it elevates neurochemicals, a lot of them are also abusing substances long term. It's not just they do drugs every once in a while. No, they are doing it every single day of their lives. On top of that, they're being artificially stimulated nonstop, 24/7, and they don't sleep. So when normal people sleep, our brains shut off. When these people sleep, their brains are still stimulated, and that is whenever they spend the most time driving their upper dimensions. So they access the upper dimensions, their upper dimensional biology, when they close their eyes or when they go to sleep. And the algorithms in which I experience on the internet, on social media, and the internet, and on television commercials are extremely hostile. They're constant death threats and threats to my life and liberty and premeditated murders. So Scientology has invaded every institution in our society. Any corporation or uh, business that has any kind of influence like media companies, radio companies, marketing companies, social media, internet companies, tech companies like Microsoft, Google, big businesses, or, or, or the government, politicians, the FBI, the CIA, the military. They all have Scientologists working for them. And these Scientologists utilize these people's authority in an attempt to try to control people, control the population, to control laws. I'm being assaulted in this very moment. You're breaking the law. Stop driving my parasites. Get away from my biology. Get off my property. You are breaking the law. No matter what happens, I want to press charges against these people from now until eternity. And I do not consent to anyone using my intellectual property. So at this very moment, I am being assaulted, both in my third dimensions and my upper dimensional biology. This has turned into a snuff film. They are petty and jealous, and now they have an agenda. They want to torture me to death and steal my intellectual property and use it for themselves. And then they want to use parts of my biology for themselves, covet my psychology so much. They want to steal my brain tissue and use it for themselves. It's there literally, they torture people constantly. So I guess at the moment they are assaulting my upper dimensional biology. I don't know which part, but I'm experiencing extreme uh, psychological issues. It's cognitive decline. Preservision and UMAS, the CIA and the military. That's who they call themselves. And NPR and Mississippi Public Broadcasting. I don't have the evidence to come to the conclusion that the local police are involved. However, I have filed reports about what is going on. And it has become so lucrative to these people to do this to me. They have actually moved in my neighborhood. So these people are also my neighbors. They have spoken to me in the third dimension. Driving down the road with their window open, they'd yell something like, "You're in." And then the next time it'd be a harassment, some kind of verbal assault. So the people that are doing this are MPB, Mississippi Public Broadcasting, several radio companies like 98.5, Wizard 106, they were involved. M- NPR, Facebook, Microsoft, Google, several politicians, the CIA, the FBI, and the military. And they are all making money from this event. Scientology has amassed trillions of dollars. They are literally selling access to heaven to people. And it has become a $1 trillion enterprise. Last time I heard, they have amassed something like $20 trillion. At least they have that much purchasing power. Because heaven comes with special abilities. You get to utilize the powers of heaven, your eyesight and your ability to invade privacy in homes and manipulate environments, and to even be able to foresee your own death. So our third dimensions see time as a linear event, days passing one after another. Being assaulted. That's a word. Our third dimension see time as a linear event. We see the days passing one after another. We see seconds and minutes and hours. That our inverse side and our dead people, they see time as it truly is, as a simultaneous event. They see the past, the present, and the future happening at the same time. So at this very moment, I'm being assimilated 13 years ago. And at this very moment, I'm being born. So at this very moment, they are driving my father. They have turned him into a surrogate. And they are giving me the name Christopher. They could come back to this very moment and then claim this is some kind of Christian martyrdom and sell this event to the Christians and the rest of society and say, "Hey, look, see, Christianity's real. Here it is, and then I'm doing the right thing. I'm supposed to torture them to death, yada yada," which is a lie. That's after the fact. Scientologists steal body parts and they torture and rape people constantly, and they harass people and victim shame and gaslight. This is part of their normal practices. Yes, from my observation, uh, Scientologists have created Christianity in an attempt to get away with their violent and criminal behavior towards mankind. If you think about it, ancient humans had knowledge of the afterlife. They knew we were Anunnaki and lizard people and aliens. They knew this. They put this in stone. We built pyramids and temples dedicated to the study of the afterlife and to the relationships with upper dimensional organisms. And then a few thousand years ago, false religions start coming onto the scene. So ancient humans started hearing voices and then seeing humanoids in the sky. And I know the exact one they see. They made a human form, a big bearded human form, and put them up in the sky for everyone to see. So ancient humans start hearing voices talking about some kind of martyrdom that's coming onto the scene. That this guy's supposed to save the planet, and they torture him to death. And then Christianity is born. And then they recount what this human up in outer space is doing, and he's committing crimes against humanity, casting great floods and plagues and wiping out half of mankind, and practicing sending people to hell and martyrdoms, and then preaching the end of the world or an apocalypse, which is part of these people's behavior. They transcend time. Modern humans, in this very moment, people that are still alive, are creating Christianity and this whole martyrdom story. They are doing it in this, they call it the sands of time. That's what I have observed. I'm being victim shamed. I have a relationship with the authorities. They know everything about me. I contact them all the time. What I'm saying is, if there is any kind of case or wrongdoing, then I'll take it up with the authorities, or the authorities will take it up with me. You are not going to sit here in my own home and tell me I've done something wrong as you torture me to death. That is against the law. You're breaking the law. Stop talking to me and leave my property. I've contacted the local police. several states. I've contacted the FBI, the CIA, the military, the CDC, and Internal Affairs about this event over and over and over again, asking for help or information or asylum, that me and my family are violently ill. Victim shaming. I have watched these people uh, turn my friends and family and coworkers into surrogates to try to destroy the environment, cause chaos, cause bad things to happen. And then on top of this, there are people committing acts of terrorism. And also, this is causing, leading to murder and torture, even more so. So real people in the world are witnessing this event. They're witnessing these people sending other people to hell and torture to death and murder and rape. So these people are going out and doing it themselves. That's what happens to a population when they are subjected to this type of behavior. When I'm saying they know it's the blue bloods. So there is a blue blood alien. It's supposed to be the optimal form in the Scientology practice. So I guess they are more whole. It's you don't get cut as much as you do the other practices, and it's turned around. So these particles in which we consist of, once they are removed from you or once you die, they can be turned around. So you're supposed to be facing the opposite way in which you are while you're among the living. When you die, you literally turn around and face the other way. You grab all of your particles and you do something called raising or turning around, which is a pulling effect. You take your particles and pull them into you and actually turn everything you're made of into the opposite direction towards this singularity. Yeah. And you stay that way. That is an Anunnaki. Well, I guess blue bloods, they'll cut them, they'll cut themselves off and modify themselves. Then they'll turn themselves around. So you don't get this with a normal cut. You're facing the same way that living people are. But then they turn themselves around towards their Anunnaki. And then they do it again. They turn themselves back around and they develop special features. They call themselves blue bloods. They turn blue. This is supposed to be the most powerful or optimal form in Scientology. Says that or the lizard people. Look, I don't care. If you want to modify yourselves, go ahead. But you must abide by the law when interacting with the living. And I can't have you here on the planet either. You are destroying the environment and hurting people on Earth. Scientology has failed at their psychology, at their auditing practices. You can't let people gain these types of powers with this type of psychology. You can't be violent. You can't hurt people. Is you must abide by the law while interacting with the living. To us and our land, our property. That's the Constitution of the United States. Then you become a foreign and domestic enemy. You can't force your religion upon us. You can't be God to us. That is against the law. There is separation of church and state. Yes, these gods are criminal. Yes, they can also get the Anunnaki features out of some of their biology, some of their modification. So these people can, they can develop an Anunnaki. I don't know if it is facing the right way. I have seen them facing the other way, and they are magnificent. Our dead people are magnificent. They are powerful. They fly through outer space and do magic, and breathe fire. It's the coolest thing I've ever seen. And you should see these people in outer space. They are dead. They are dead people. Yeah, they're all shriveled up and try to paint themselves up and modify themselves to look halfway presentable, but they're pretty much dead people. Yes, Anunnakis are dead people. Now, we can't see them naturally, but Scientologists can. With modifications and with special technology, we can see them. Yes, and there is an alien presence. The greens, they glow too. I guess that's a form of an Anunnaki. So dead people, they glow. Their eyes glow, and they're supposed to be able to breathe fire. Uh, I've never seen it, but they call it molecular light transfer. So energy comes from the third dimension into the inner dimension or the dark side, the inverse. It goes that way. And it comes out of our Nunnakai. Yes, their skin glows and their eyes glow. It's a dark side of the universe. They call it the dark side or the inverse. It's like there's no natural light there, but these people can see everything. So they cut themselves to pieces and then attempt to go to heaven before they die. It's comical. It is, but it ain't. Now they got to use transplants, other people's body parts to keep them alive, and that don't even work. So they got to shove a stick up their ass that electrocutes them. Normal organisms or normal deaths, normal dead people, they don't get very big. If they survive for a very long time and go to the outer reaches of the universe, they get maybe twice the size of a human or as big as a house, maybe. That's a normal organism. These Scientologists, they get as big as the planet. I've heard some say they're bigger. Some of these people get to be as big as the universe because they remove just a very small portion of their biology. It's very opaque, like just a few dimensions of a certain area of their biology. And then they fill it full of energy and they start to expand. They take it way out into the universe and they expand greatly. Yes, you have to wonder what these organisms are doing to our environment. And that's the entire universe. What I'm just saying.